Once again, I turn to the words of former Sports Information Director Pete Carisno, who had the privilege of watching David Cook play both football and lacrosse here at Cortland. Pete started at Cortland the same year David started here in the fall of 1981. And here's what Pete recently told me after hearing about this year's induction class. He said, quote, "Covering every one of Dave Cook's 681 rushing attempts was like watching a steam engine pull 20 railroad cars filled with coal. Defenses would key on him, but it didn't matter. That train wouldn't be stopped. He particularly feasted on Albany's 4-4 defense, posting his longest school record runs against the Great Danes. He had the same approach on the lacrosse field when he and Hobart's Tom Rosa, both formidable figures, collided at midfield. I think it measured a 10 on the Richter scale." Well, there's not too much more I can add to that, but let me give it a shot. In the 30 years since David finished playing football at Cortland, he still remains atop the record books with 3,455 rushing yards, 44 touchdowns, and 268 points scored. He's one of only a handful of Cortland players to earn a spot on the AP Little All-America team. That covers not just Division III, but Division II, NAIA, basically anything that's not Division I. He was just as successful at lacrosse. He was a 2-time All-American in that sport. At Maine Endwell High School, David's been the boys lacrosse coach since 1994 and the athletic director since 2004. Retired Maine Endwell Superintendent Joseph Stoner, in his recommendation letter for David, put it well when he said, "Dave has displayed the same qualities as an administrator, which made him the great athletic competitor he was in high school and college. Among those qualities are persistence, courage, teamwork, intelligence, and of course a great sense of humor." So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for induction into the SUNY Cortland C Club Hall of Fame, David Cook, class of 1991.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting all of us. First and foremost, after reading bios and meeting the individuals, I want to commend my fellow inductees. Very, very well deserved, and you should be extremely proud because what you've done for Cortland is amazing. I'd like to say thanks to the C Club for such a memorable weekend. I know planning can be overwhelming, but Mike and everybody that I've been associated with, and Robin, via numerous emails, because my name was spelled wrong, I was left off the list, my mom was left off the list, a number of different things, but it all worked out, and everything is absolutely fantastic. I do want to thank the C Club nominating committee, specifically Pete Carisno. I used to call Pete Scoop Carisno when I was here because he had the story on everything. I mean, he was amazing. He knew stats, he knew players, he was just fantastic. And if he didn't promote my successes the way he did, I would have never gotten the national recognition or any of the major awards that I did. And I can't thank Peter enough for doing that for me. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Coach Steve Bevel. About 3 years ago, he said, "Cookie, why the hell aren't you in the Hall of Fame?" I said, "I don't know, the club doesn't like me. I don't have any idea." And then he encouraged me to get some people to write some letters of recommendation, and I know he was a vocal force on the committee supporting the things that I did at Cortland, and I can't begin to thank Stephen enough. I'd like to thank my wife Terry, my best friend. You don't have to go stand by the Hall of Fame wall with me and I say, "God, I want to get on that wall. I want to be on that wall." For the past 20 years, I was saying that to you. Well, we made it and we're on it. So thank you. I'd like to thank my children. My oldest boy, Brandon, and his wife are here, Ashley, and they gave me a beautiful granddaughter approximately 9.5, 10 weeks ago, Brielle. Thank you, guys. I'd like to thank Courtney, my daughter. Her fiance, Mike, is out of town. He's not able to attend. My son, Justin, he is getting a quality education at Rockport. And my son, Zachary. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for sharing this evening with me. I'd like to recognize my uncle. Even though he lived in Clifton Park, He would show up when I was at Vestal. He would show up when I was at Wagner. He would show up when I'm in Buffalo, just because his love of the game and his support of me meant the world. Thank my mom. Since 5th grade, she never missed a football game, ever. Lacrosse was a little more difficult because we had weekday games, and being the mother of 5 and owning her own daycare center and putting 50 to 60 hours a week in didn't allow her to do that. But I can specifically remember football because it didn't matter win or lose. If I played well, if I played poorly, it was always a hug, I'm proud of you, I love you, and a kiss on the cheek, and she would slide something into my hand. When I was young, it might have been a candy bar, might have been some fresh baked cookies, might have been chocolate chip cookies. But what was really neat is when I got to Cortland, and I was fairly successful, so it wasn't too bad when she'd give me a hug and a kiss, but then she started sliding like a 20, maybe a 50, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And she followed it up with, I love you, I'm proud of you, and don't tell your father. I think Dad knew, Mom. I think he knew. I'd like to thank my father. Unfortunately, my father passed away 2 years ago, June 3rd. He was aware that I was nominated. Quick little funny story is I really didn't understand the process. And a number of my children were in the house and my wife was there, and I got my first letter and it said C Club. Well, I am jumping up and down and running. My wife had some tears in her eyes. Their kids are like high-fiving. And as I kept reading, I'm like, regrettably. What the heck would they have regrettably? Balloon deflated real quick, guys. It was like, oh, they regret to inform me that I have not been selected, but I am still on the ballot for another 9 years. I'm like, wow. But quick little story about my father. Dave Cook, the big fish in a little pond at Vestal, didn't really have to work that much at the athletic part of things. I didn't have to lift the weights. I didn't have to, do the off-season workouts. It came fairly naturally to me. Well, Coach Ed Decker asked me as a freshman to come out for the varsity football team. It was a rarity back then. 3rd day, maybe the 4th day, I'm sitting in Randall Hall, and we didn't have cell phones, so I'm on the payphone, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, Dad, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm a guppy in the ocean up here. You don't understand. He goes, you made a commitment to your teammates and your coaches in that college. You're going to stick it out. I go, Dad, I'm 7th string, and the depth chart is only 4 deep. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? And he said, I'm going to tell you 2 things. I said, okay. And he goes, first and foremost, you are not going to get outworked by anybody. I don't care if it's holding a dummy. I don't care if it's going to get the waters. I don't care if it's running the football. Nobody's going to outwork you, David, and you're going to find a spot on that squad. Week 1, I'm rotating plays in and out. I'm not getting a lot of carries, but I'm getting field time. As a freshman, it was awesome. Week 4, unfortunate injury to a senior fullback. I had been a tailback, but Coach Decker said, Cookie, you think you can figure the fullback position out by Friday? I said, I got it, Coach, and I never looked back, and I started every single game since that time. So it was because of my father's encouragement and his words of don't get outbeat by anybody. And then I said, but Dad, you said there's 2 things. That was one of them. What's the second? Don't ever call me collect and tell me you're going to quit. I got it, Dad. I got it. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank my numerous coaches. All of them had a wonderful impact on me. I was a young boy coming out of Vestal High School, and I left as a young man with a great deal of respect for every one of my coaches. And I'm not going to go through every one of them because it's from the head coach to the assistant. Every one of them bestowed something upon me that made me a better person. One thing that I've done at Maine Endwell as Director of Health Phys Ed and Athletics is I've instilled a philosophy, and it's not just with my coaches, It's with the coaches, it's with the teachers, it's with the administrators, it's with the Board of Education, it's with the superintendent. And that is, Maine Endwell Athletics is an extension of our classroom. And the more we can educate our young men and women before they walk out of our hallway doors for the last time, it's going to better prepare them for a Cortland or a private industry or whatever it is. And I don't care what anybody says, the relationships and the experiences that I received at Cortland impacted me forever. And I want to thank everyone for that. Okay, we're all a pretty smart group in here. And if you look at the program, I think it says 81. Dave Cook came to Cortland. Why the hell is he getting inducted as a 91 graduate? What, baby on a 10-year plan here or what? Actually, I was. I finished lacrosse. Actually, when I was done with football, my NFL career lasted one day. Remember, Mom, when I went down to the Meadowlands? That was short-lived. Reality check. I was probably 4.5 credits short, and I started coaching lacrosse at Ithaca College, and I was working for my father's family-owned business, Cook's Tree Service. And, you know, my dad made it pretty easy. I was the youngest of 5, the youngest of 4 boys. All boys were in the tree business together, and he gave each one of us our own crew. So I was automatically a boss coming out. I left Ithaca and I started coaching at Maine Endwell, and I noticed there was a stack of proposals like this high on my father's desk on this side, and then there was a pile about this high on this side, and it seemed like my crew was always getting the short stack. And I'm like, Dad, what is going on? He goes, well, these are the jobs that we have. These are the ones that your brothers refuse to do. I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah, they're labor-intensive and rather manual in nature, so that's what I was doing. I was getting all those as the youngest of all the boys. I went to my mom and dad and I said, you know what? I think I need to go back and get my degree. I have to complete it. I only got 4.5 credits. So luckily, I was able to work with Dr. Thomas Steele, who was the graduate coordinator at Cortland at the time. Wonderful, wonderful man, classiest guy you'll ever meet. And it was very difficult because now I'm a 28-year-old man on a campus that I ran around on pretty hard as an 18-year-old. And I told Dr. Steele, I said, I think I want to come back and get my degree. And he said, what are you doing now? And I told him I was coaching and I loved kids. And he said, don't just come back for 4.5 credits and not do something with that degree. I think you can put a year in and you can become an educator, a certified teacher, and be doing something that you really enjoy. And, you know, that's when I decided in 1990, I'm coming back to school. I went for full year. Thanks to my support of my mom and my dad, I was able to get my undergrad. I've also got my master's at Cortland, and I also have my certificate of advanced study through Cortland. And it all comes down to 2 people, my father and Dr. Steele. Thank you.